Hey everyone, welcome to our first live broadcast here on Ford News. It's Johnathan Ford. Follow him on X at FordJohnathan5. I'm Brian London. Follow me at Miami Radio Beast. I am in a different spot in my living room than where I normally broadcast from, so I can see my TV. Johnathan, you are in your normal spots, and it is 12:12 on the East Coast. I will knock on wood because we need it right now. There's so much to get to. I figure we'll go about 2 hours. Unless there's something breaking or happening, then we will stay on as long as possible. I have a lot of thoughts, probably too many thoughts at this point, Johnathan. But the bottom line is, all right, I won't go glass half empty right at the top. I'll say the race is too close to call right now. That's where I'll start with.
Yeah, it absolutely is. I think I see a lot of people getting very anxious, but what we got to remember is, and even in 2020, we all went to bed and we all felt that Biden was set to lose, that Trump was going to win re-election, and it's because of what we're all experiencing right now, and what I believe is we're seeing the red mirage. It's basically all the red districts, and I was texting Brian and telling him to calm his damn horses a little bit. To relax, go have a Diet Coke or whatever drink he prefers. But
Coffee.
but I was just I was just telling him to calm it down a little bit. We got the red wave mirage, and I'm not saying which way the outcome is going to go or not, but I still believe that Harris will win Pennsylvania. She'll win Michigan. The only one that is a little iffy to me is just waiting to see the results out of Wisconsin. But ultimately, I still think she gets to 270. It was just not the path that a lot of us were expecting, Brian.
Yeah, so listen, no matter which way this race goes, and I am not as confident as you. If you follow me on X at Miami Radio Beast, you've already seen my sentiments so far. But regardless of which way this race goes, right, it's a lot closer than a lot of people thought it would be. And I said this yesterday or the day before. I said someone or something is going to be wrong. Either the polls that were talking about Trump winning would be wrong, or the insiders that I pay attention to were going to be wrong who said Kamala was going to win. So, that's going to come to fruition, right? But regardless of who wins this election, it's going to be a lot closer than we thought. And I think we have to really do a deep dive. And I'm not sure now is the time, but at some point do a deep dive on a couple of things. One, it looks like Trump is definitely picking up Hispanic voters, which I did not foresee, especially with all the things that have happened during this campaign, especially in the last week, especially as it relates to what happened in Madison Square Garden. So we have to analyze that and why that's happening. Two, in retrospect, was it unfair if Kamala does not win? Was it unfair to expect her to get this job done in 107 days? And three, I think if we deep dive at some point, there's still a lot of racism and misogyny in this country that, when it's all said and done, will have prevented all sorts of people from voting for Kamala Harris. And that makes me sad if that's the case. But I think that's a big part of it. And then another huge part of it, Johnathan, is just the perceived economic woes of this country. When you look at all of the data, when you look at all of the numbers, the economy is doing great. The problem is, because prices are so high, we talked about it so much on Ford News, that the prices are much higher than they need to be. Inflation is down to almost 2% where they want it to be. But despite that, prices are still high, which means people feel it in the wallets. And even though the economy is booming, When people go to the grocery store and find that milk is much more expensive than they think it should be, that's going to cause them not to vote for the incumbent party. And I think that's going to play a huge part in this, regardless of how the election turns out, just in the numbers being what they are.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it is the disinformation that's just been spread, and I think you hit it right on the nose. And you know where my stance was, is that how could anybody vote for somebody that's been indicted for 30 or charged and convicted on 34 felonies under New York Penal Code 175.10 and 175.05, also being found civilly liable for SA, also all the fraud. How could an election even be this close? That's where my stance is, and it's because the American people, a big group of them, believed disinformation, propaganda that was placed out there, that they believed without researching their own or actually finding valuable sources that would give them the right information. Just like over the past couple of weeks, we had the whole FEMA thing where everybody started to believe that FEMA was actually giving money to undocumented immigrants, when the actual truth of it is that information came from SSP, Shelter Service Program, through the actual border budget or Homeland Security budget that's handed over to FEMA just for distribution. And I think that's where America really needs to take a look at what information is out there, what information is truthful. But I still believe, Brian, at the end of the day, not only do we pick up the House by a few seats, which we're starting to see that unravel right now with quite a few pickups in states that you typically wouldn't see the Democratic Party pick up states or seats. So I think we pick up that, but I still think at the end of the day, she gets to 270, above the 270, and wins the presidency. I just think that we just need to wait a little bit longer. I know a lot of us got North Carolina wrong. We thought that this blue wave would come through. It didn't transpire before enough of the votes were counted, it appears, but we still have a lot of votes left to count in Pennsylvania, a lot of votes in Michigan, a lot of votes in Wisconsin, a lot of votes in Nevada, and a lot of votes in Arizona. And I wouldn't be so sure about Arizona actually being in favor of Trump. So I think we still got a long way to go. I originally predicted that we would know by tonight, but I just don't think that we'll be there till probably 4 or 5, even maybe later in the morning. In that case, you'll be asleep, tucked away in a little blanket. And myself, I'll be up still analyzing what's going on. I'll probably be on TikTok discussing this throughout the night. I probably won't go to sleep till about 8 o'clock in the morning just to make sure that we have our bases covered of what's coming in. But I need everyone just to be patient. Let this fly out, Brian. It's just like having a pie in the oven. You don't pull the pie a little too early. You wait for that crust to turn golden brown, and then you pull it out. And I think that's what we're going to end up with at the end of the day, is that Harris is still going to come out victorious.
I love your positivity. One, I'm drinking coffee past midnight, so chances I sleep are 0 to none. Plus, I have meetings in the morning. I'm going to be a mess tomorrow, regardless of what happens with this election, just physically. A story that we need to get to, Johnathan, and, I know you were doing your job, literally, before we jumped on the air, but the Russian bomb threats, the calling in of bomb threats at several very, I would say, Democratic-leaning polling sites is a huge story, a huge national security story, and one that I don't think has gotten enough coverage as I've been flying through the networks tonight or on X. The Russian government basically is interfering with our election in real time right now, not with like disinformation, not with like fake videos. They've done that too, right? But I'm talking like literally clearing out voting precincts with bomb threats. Now, there were no bombs, but the FBI has been tracking this all day, and we're talking dozens and dozens and dozens of bomb threats. at very specific voting locations that lean Democratic.
Democratic. Yep.
Yeah. And this is a huge story, especially since we know which candidate they want to win. And if Donald Trump does win this election, he will just bend the knee to Putin. And that's where we are. And let's be honest, the owner of one of the biggest social media platforms is sitting in Mar-a-Lago next to Trump tonight. It's just it all makes me feel sick.
Yeah, it's definitely like 2000. I think a lot of people are getting the 2016 feelings all over again, to where there was this big chance that Hillary was going to win, and it didn't come to fruit, of course. But again, I want people to stress to hold tight. But you're absolutely right about these bomb threats that have happened, that are primarily that are in Democratic areas or Democratic voting bloc areas. You also have the RNC out there, even as late as tonight, challenging voters. Votes actually being counted and tabulated in the final vote, which a lot of these judges are rejecting. But it's awful funny that you have one side that's directly attacking people's rights to cast their vote and for those votes to be counted. And I'd just like to share, Brian, too, that Harris's actual campaign manager and their campaign came out and said that they always understood that the election was going to basically be decided on the Rust Belt, which is basically the Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania area, and that they still feel fairly comfortable with where they are as far as winning the election. But we have a serious problem in this country, and after whoever wins this election, we have basically 4 years to get it fixed.
Yeah, and I don't have any answers right now as to how we do that. I'm, as I scroll through X and look at the comments, and a lot of the a lot of the comments that are being retweeted into my feed that I wouldn't normally see, I just get
Mm-hmm.
more and more hopeless about our future, and how we fix our democracy, and how we overcome disinformation and misinformation, and how we are able to get to the point where people start using their brains again, because I think we've got, especially there's going to be a whole deep dive um, about young males. And I saw today, I was watching something today, and they went to go interview a student at one of the universities in Pennsylvania, and he said, yeah, I'm not voting for Kamala because she didn't go on Joe Rogan's podcast. Like that's how we're deciding the fate of our nation. And
It's unbelievable. Or being upset because of a 1 minute and 30-second skit on SNL with Harris. I mean, it's beyond. Or a candidate for the presidency basically standing on stage 24 hours before the election day and commenting about uh, bulletproof glass in front of them, and the only way to get a clear shot is to shoot through the media. Like, this is where we are right now as a country, and we feel that type of behavior is acceptable. And what that basically proves is that the Republican Party has a cult problem right now, where they're just not able to hold the leader of their party accountable for his behaviors and just being morally bankrupt. Like, he's one of the worst humans to ever walk the face of this earth inside of as far as a political person. Um, and it just blows my mind that this is even it could even be possibly close. And we're talking about now 2.1% inflation, which is right where Federal Reserves wants it. We're talking about record stock market. We're talking about record job growth. Um, every every statistic that we have, even economically, after the pandemic, which was a global problem, and Biden and the Harris administration led the world in the recovery of this, and we're still economically the icon of the world as far as advancing and continuing to grow our GDP and our economy month over month over month. And it's just saddens me that the people that are in charge of this are not in charge of this, but are voting are also, or the states that Trump are winning are also the states that are ranked last in the education.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you look at college-educated voters, by far they vote Democratic. Um, a couple of things. My brain is all over the place. My ADHD. It's gonna be all over the place tonight. By the way, to the almost 3,000 people that are watching us right now, thank you for watching. And do us a favor, go subscribe to our podcast feed, Ford News Podcast, wherever you get
Hey,
podcasts. And of
Brian,
course,
New York 22nd District House seat is just flipped Democrat. So New
all
York
right.
22nd seat, House seat has just flipped from Republican to Democrat.
I feel like we need like the dun 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 or something like
maybe
that.
I'll just
Yeah, just do that if we have breaking news.
and,
Uh,
and Brian, I am supporting my
the
Iowa
Hawkeyes.
Hawkeyes
Yeah.
after their win this weekend.
Oh, there you go. I'm supporting my Miami Hurricanes somewhere in this room, but not on me. I'm wearing my Jim from the Office shirt because that's how I feel right now. But to all of you that are watching, go subscribe to the podcast wherever you get the podcast. Ford News Podcast. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, Ford News Podcast. And we appreciate your support as we bring you a live reaction to the 2024 election here on Ford News. And I'll let Johnathan keep track of the news as it comes in. Johnathan, a couple of things as just again, I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, I have a feeling it's not such a good feeling, but we don't know yet. But this is a lot closer than we thought it was going to be. There's two people I would like to shout out in a negative way because I think they're two people that had a huge impact on this. One is Attorney General Merrick Garland. If you could step up, you drag your feet with all of the legal cases with Donald Trump, and none of them were able to come to really a conclusion. Even with the sentencing before the election. And two, Mitch McConnell, because if Mitch McConnell had his Republicans in the Senate given them the okay to convict Trump in either of the impeachment trials, we wouldn't be here either, because an impeached and convicted president cannot run for office again. So I'd like to give a special shout out to those two gentlemen who have really given us the fist up the
Yeah, so CBS also has just changed Wisconsin from lean Democrat to leaning Republican and leaning Trump, which means that at this course, if she actually lost Wisconsin, she would have to win Arizona and Nevada, basically, or Arizona to replace Wisconsin. So there would still be a path, but then she would have to win Arizona, and it just gets a little bit tougher for her
It's not.
in that circumstance.
I'm not buying it, man.
For the blue wave.
I'm just not buying it. There's no blue wave. There's not even a blue trickle. There's not. I don't. I love your positivity. I mean, the other day on the show, you predicted 312 electoral votes for Kamala Harris. We're not getting there. But I've not seen one. Here's what I keep saying on X before we started the show. I have not seen one data point in any of the calculations that the mathematicians and analysts and the people that study all this stuff have thrown out there. I've not seen one data point that shows that Kamala Harris is going to win this election.
Well, there is some counties out there in Pennsylvania and in Michigan right now to where Harris is outperforming Biden. And some of those are actually pretty significant by 2 or 3 or 4%. It's just a matter of whether that will. And there's also an increase in women voting, so we do know that that's occurring as well. It's just whether that the Latino votes, the difference that Donald Trump is polling away from the Democratic Party, if that will be enough to actually offset the losses. But I will tell you that the blue wave is coming. There is still multiple counties out there in Pennsylvania that still hasn't reported, or just some are just now starting to report. Um, and a bunch of the different states. There's way too much out there right now to even come close, or even to have the assumption that she could lose this when the voting wall was so large in some of these states. We just got to wait for these counts to come in and see where they lay.
It's official, by the way, that at least according to Cook, that the Senate will be Republican. So we
Mm-hmm.
kind of thought that was coming,
Yep.
but that is official. So even if Kamala does pull out a victory, her ability to govern will be made tougher if the Senate is red, which it is. We will see about the House. I don't have that projection in front of me yet, but
Well,
we
it
will.
does look like that they will pick up the House by a couple seats, it looks like. And Nancy Pelosi again has come back out and said that we will have Speaker Hakeem Jeffries. And the one person that you never want to doubt of counting votes ever is Nancy Pelosi, who was the queen of making sure she had enough votes before she brought it to the House. So there is enough pickups there for the Democrats to hold a small majority in the House.
Yeah, well, this goes to show you, right? So, nothing represents local politics more in a federal election than House pickups, right? Because that's really ultra local compared to Senate, compared to the presidency, and it just goes to show you how much I despise the Electoral College, right? Because it doesn't truly reflect one vote for one person. It's a convoluted way of deciding who the president is. Now, the New York Times, as of like an hour or two ago, predicted that Donald Trump was going to slightly win the popular vote, which would blow me away, right? Because I thought that if he did win this election, it would still be like a 2016 where Hillary won the popular vote, but Trump won the Electoral College. If Trump wins the popular vote, then I'm really going to have a lot of questions.
Yeah, it seems like that could be a possibility, that he could possibly win the popular vote when all things are counted. But again, I'm just going to keep going. That I still believe at the end. Also, just came across that the Vice President Harris will not address anybody tonight. She still has hopes, but it looks like she is not going to address or concede or do any of that to towards her campaign at all tonight, is what's coming across now. Just waiting to see if that's confirmed. But that it looks that she will not address the nation or anybody tonight.
Yes. According to several outlets, she will not speak. There's a huge crowd at Howard University, her alma mater in Washington, D.C., and she will not address them tonight. The crowds are starting to leave, according to several sources that are on the ground there. Meanwhile, Georgia has just been called for Donald Trump officially. That, according to
Yep,
NBC News.
Yep, it does look like Georgia is going to go to Trump, which we all know that was going to be a slim margin, anyways. I mean, Biden only won it by a few thousand votes,
Right. That
so
Trump
it was
is
very slim.
right. Trump got the 11,000 votes he was looking for.
Yeah, 11,780 votes or whatever it was. But again, Georgia and North Carolina, that multiple people, including myself, predicted that Harris would win, was never any of the states that were actually needed to win the election. It was just like kind of the icing on the cake type states that didn't look like it panned out. And we'll tomorrow or the following day, when all the votes are tabulated and counted, we'll go in and we'll see exactly where we all got it wrong. But it does appear that Georgia and North Carolina both have went to Trump.
Yeah, and if you're keeping track, that's 246 electoral votes for Trump and 189 for Vice President Harris. That's where we are right now.
No,
1236.
she's over 200.
Where do you see that?
She's at like 215.
Nope,
Hold on.
I don't believe that's the case. Go check
Hold
your
on one
little
second.
map.
For some reason, my Twitter is freezing up currently. I'm guessing it's probably because we're going live right now, and I don't want to close the app because I don't know if it'll affect the live or not.
No, you
Oh,
not yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean every network right now has that as it does not have her at 200 yet. Folks, I love live broadcasting. It's great.
Associated Press count. It shows that she's at 210 by the Associated Press.
Mm. Mm. I still see 189 to 246. I don't know what state's missing, but we will figure that out.
Yeah, I'm looking now because I have 210 to 230 written down. That would be outside of Georgia. So let's just see here what we got. Of course, everything that I see right now is like hour and a half old.
All right. Well, let's just let it be. We'll update the electoral college count in a moment. I'm sitting here watching superhero Steve Kornacki on MSNBC going through his whiteboard. And he's going through every county in Philadelphia. I mean, in Pennsylvania. And obviously, we're still waiting for votes to come in Pennsylvania. The way they do it is basically when the polls close at 7, they release a big wave of their mail-in votes. Then they released another group of mail-in votes somewhere between 11 and midnight. And now what we're seeing coming in is all the same day voting, is all the election day voting from Pennsylvania. So, Steve Kornacki is going county by county, and we're still waiting for votes to come in. Anything is possible. It's just not looking great right now. I'm still waiting for any kind of data point to come across my screen to tell me that there is a lot of hope that Kamala Harris can win this election. I'm not seeing it. Trump is picking up votes, especially among Hispanics in areas in Pennsylvania, and Kamala is falling below where Joe Biden was in a lot of those counties. But again, we're still waiting on Philadelphia. We're still waiting on some big counties to come in with votes. So anything is possible.
So NBC just updated the current electoral vote count. It's 213 to 247.
I don't know where you got that, but I'm all for it. I don't know what states they're including and not including, but that's neither here nor there. All right, so let's re-rack, right? Is if Kamala Harris cannot win Wisconsin, which it does not look like right now, then if she would have to win Pennsylvania, Michigan, and both Arizona and Nevada.
No, so hold on one second. Here, let me go to my little handy dandy. That's not what I want. Let's just see here. Oop. We're going to go here to well, these are all
I was while you're figuring that out. I was watching MSNBC before, and there's been a big push that that black men were in large numbers flipping to Trump. The numbers really don't bear that out. So
No.
if you're a Democrat and you're looking to place blame somewhere, that's not somewhere to place blame. When it's all said and done, and we get true numbers, and we can really look at how this thing fell, then we can start looking at what went wrong and where for the Harris campaign if she ends up losing. But I don't think that uh, the block of voters of black men is what got it done. I don't think the data is going to support that, but we shall see. Meanwhile, again, the Senate right now, according to MSNBC, is at 51 for the Republicans, 41 for the Democrats. Obviously 8 seats still left to be decided. And I know there's an independent in Nebraska that they hope wins and possibly canvasses with the Democrats. We'll see how that. I don't know if that's been called yet, but regardless, the Republicans have won the Senate. Johnathan, how you doing on your?
Yeah. So if on Wisconsin, so let's just say Donald Trump pulls off Wisconsin, then Harris would need both Arizona and Nevada.
Okay.
Yep. She need. Oh, hold on a second. Hold on. I forgot one. So yes, she would still need both Arizona and Nevada. Definitely Arizona. But there is this split in Nebraska, which we'll just do that. So if she loses Arizona, then Donald Trump wins the election. If she wins Arizona, Donald Trump loses the election. If Nevada, then it doesn't look like, unless I'm missing a state, which it doesn't look like I am. Oh, I was. Okay. So yep. So without Arizona, if she loses Arizona, she would still be, it'd be 261 to 267 to 271 for Trump. If she wins both but loses Wisconsin, then it's 278 to 260 Harris. So she would need both. She would need both.
All right. So
without Wisconsin.
Correct. So without Wisconsin, she would need both Arizona and Nevada. I don't feel good about Arizona. I feel so about Nevada. I just don't. I don't know at this point. By the way, one of her co-chairs, Cedric Richmond, is now addressing the crowd at Harris. Not at her headquarters, but I guess Harris headquarters out at Howard University, basically thanking the crowd for coming out and telling them, hey, keep your spirits up. The race is too close to call. And now everyone is leaving Howard University, where Kamala Harris was going to have her big victory speech. That's obviously not happening tonight, if it does happen at all. So that is what's going on here, as we are just 15 minutes away from 1 a.m. on the East Coast and coming up on midnight where Johnathan is.
I think that's the right call by her and her campaign. And let's just hope that Donald Trump also does the same thing and doesn't do like he did in 2020. Brian, I don't know if you remember this, but he basically came out. Yeah, he basically came out, declared victory, and then at 3 a.m., 2 a.m., the blue wave that I keep talking about came out. And when we all woke up, Biden was down significantly in Pennsylvania. A lot of us thought it was over. And then when we woke up the next day, then it ended up being that Biden had the lead. And then we found out later on that, of course, then they projected Biden as the winner. And I think that's similar to what we're going to see even tonight is everyone's going to go to bed, Brian, you included, with the thought that it's doomsday for Harris. But I trust you when we wake up. I believe when we wake up, we'll see a different picture in Pennsylvania. We're even going to see a different picture in Wisconsin and Michigan. Nevada will go blue. Arizona is still a toss-up. So I think we're just getting ahead of ourselves a little too much when everything, even though everyone thinks, the numbers right now aren't looking good. You have to remember that there's lots of large cities out there like Detroit and Pittsburgh and all of them that still have to report.
This goes without saying, though, right? Like, whoever wins Pennsylvania wins the election, right?
It's pretty much whoever wins at this point with what's out there, whoever wins Pennsylvania wins the election. Without Pennsylvania, well, let's just say if there's any path. So without Pennsylvania, let's just say Donald Trump wins Pennsylvania, but then Harris picks up Arizona. It's a tie, 269, 269.
And then it goes to the
House.
which
Yep.
is now Republican.
Yeah, but they seat January 3rd. So
Yeah,
the new House does seat January 3rd.
Yeah, but I don't think that I am unsure of whether it goes to the House now.
It does, because Nancy Pelosi just said earlier today that do you have an issue with or a fear of current Speaker Mike Johnson not certifying the 2024 election? Her response was Hakeem Jeffries will be the Speaker.
No. But that's okay. The certifying of the election is different that's a different process than the House having to vote. So I listen, even though I majored in political science and I studied this stuff, I have no idea. So that's something I will have to Google is when the House would vote if it's a tie. Vote if the election is a tie. Okay, I'll have to read that article in a little bit. I love American politics. Why can't it just be easy? Why can't we just have a popular vote and whoever wins wins? It makes no sense to me. When you think about it, Jonathan, right? The Electoral College was established because at the time it was like, oh well, the American populace doesn't have enough information to be able to vote with any confidence on who the president should be. Only those elected officials and those in the know would know about the candidates. So that's why we have the Electoral College. But at this rate, at this day and age, anyone that wants to have any information can find the information. Granted, they may get misinformation or disinformation, but we're not at the same point we were back in the 1700s.
Yeah, I'm just looking at other numbers here just real quick just to see.
By the way, just breaking news. So Nevada had to keep a bunch of precincts open due to all sorts of issues and the bomb threats and this and that. Now all of the polls in Nevada have closed, which means their data will be coming in soon. So we should know about Nevada very shortly.
So that's exactly what I'm looking at now because, Nevada should be coming in here very, very soon. So, and they're still saying Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania is too close to call.
Yes, but right now, Trump has a 2.6% lead in Pennsylvania with 90% of the vote in.
And all of what's left is right in the heart of the blue districts.
Yeah, so it's just a
all
matter
blue
of
votes that are left.
It's whether that's enough to overcome the 2.6%.
So what's his current vote lead right now?
I would have to go look.
Has Biden actually won the district that still has to report? It looks like Biden won that district by 330,000 votes. That's what I was looking at.
Okay, I'm now you're forcing me to go log in No, that's the AP. Where's the state website? That's what I'm looking for. Uh, duh, 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 duh. All right, this is let's see. I can go by. Do you want me to go by county?
No, just give me the whole state. What was this total state?
All right. According to the Pennsylvania government website, the Donald J. Trump has 50.78% of the vote with 3,010,857. And
Good timing
Kamala,
for my pin to run out.
what's that?
It was 3 million 10,000.
57.
Okay, 57. Okay.
You know what? Instead of me doing this, here, I will just send you the link in our little chat. and then and then you don't have to listen to me tell you numbers. You can see them yourself. Let's see. Seeing if I can pick up anything from the television that we haven't learned yet. I have a friend that lives in Pennsylvania who just texted me something that wasn't so nice. So I'm wondering if they know something up there that we don't know nationally yet, but that's neither here nor there. All right, looking at Pennsylvania voting, I'm going to go by county. You look at the whole thing. And we're looking for Philadelphia because that's the big mother. All right, here we go. In Philadelphia County, they don't tell me. By the way, can I just tell everyone who voted for Jill Stein and Chase Oliver to go bleep themselves? That's what I have to say. It looks like with about they don't tell me what percentage of the vote is in Philadelphia. I know the totals, I know the percentages, but I don't know what percent of the vote is in. I know that right now in Philadelphia County, Kamala Harris 478,212 votes, and Donald Trump has 127,636 votes. That is a difference of about 350,000 votes. I think Biden's difference was higher than that, somewhere around 370. If you're counting at home,
he won by 330,000, but he had about 900,000 votes. There's like 836,000 total votes coming out of that county.
Okay, well that
area.
They're not. Yeah, well, if you're talking about Philadelphia County, they're not close to that number. So I have to see what their total number is because, of course, the Pennsylvania website doesn't give that to me. I love that we're trying to do math and figure out numbers. It's totally not my strong point. My strong point's talking. That's what I do well. You do numbers. I do the talking. You do the numbers. The Harris campaign says that she will speak to supporters tomorrow. Okay, well, that's good. That's great. Let's see. Okay, so Erie County in Pennsylvania has Trump winning by 1.5 points with nearly all of the points in. That was a county that went Obama 08, Obama 12, Trump 16, Biden 20. So that's kind of one of those bellwether counties, Erie County. And right now, Trump is ahead by 1.5 points. So, yeah, again, I think the only way it happens, Johnathan, is basically like every vote that's left in Philadelphia goes to Harris. I think that's what it has to be because the rest of the counties in Pennsylvania are just not trending the same as they did in 2020.
So it looks like with what I believe, what was left in 2020, it looks like 58%. 59%. So she has to get between 59%, 61% to stand a chance in Pennsylvania with the
Overall.
remaining votes that are out there. Yeah, with the remaining votes.
So wait, she has to get what, like 59% of the remaining votes? Is that what you're saying?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
59 to 61% of the remaining votes.
All right. Well, they're basically going to all have to come from Philadelphia because I'm looking at all the other counties. They're mostly all reported, and Trump leads by a percentage point or 2 or 3 or 4 in the bellwether counties. So she is going to have to run it up in what's left in Philadelphia for her to win Pennsylvania. Right now in Arizona, there's about 52% of the vote is in. It's basically a statistical tie at this point. So Arizona is going to be close. But again, Trump has a small lead. I don't know what counties are outstanding there. Obviously, Maricopa County is the big one, and I'm not sure there. And then obviously we're waiting on Nevada. That is supposed to come in at any time. All right, Johnathan, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to let you grab some Pepsi because I know you have one stock somewhere. I'm going to let you calculate some numbers. I'm going to go pour another cup of coffee. By the way, Kamala Harris has won New Mexico. So that's 5 electoral votes, if you're counting. We're going to take a short break. We're going to try to take a short break, and we will be back momentarily with the rest of our election night coverage. How does that suit you?
Yeah, I'll do some calculations to see where we're going because right now I'm digging into Wisconsin, and some of the numbers coming out are not looking like in Harris's favor.
All right, we'll be right back on Ford News.
battleground states right now. Let's look at the, excuse me. Sorry, battleground states right now. Pennsylvania, too close to call. 92% of the vote in. In Michigan, it is too close to call with just over 60% of the vote in. In Wisconsin, it is too close to call with 114,000 votes between the two candidates, 86% of the vote in. In Arizona, it is not too close to call, it is too early to call. We've got just over half the vote in Arizona. You can see the numbers there. And in Nevada, similarly, it's not too close to call, it is too early to call. With 70% of the vote in Nevada. Looking at the Alaska House, there's just a Senate race right now in Alaska, but there is a House race in Alaska that is of interest to the students, races to watch in the country right now. In the Alaska House race, the Democratic incumbent Mary Patel is trying to hold on to that seat facing Nick Begich from a famous Alaska family. Nick Begich running in this race as a Republican, despite his family's Democratic history in the state. This race is at this point too early to call in the House race in Alaska. That is where we stand. Steve, I'll get back to you.
Sitting in Pennsylvania here, not too much to look at, just to reset. We were just looking at where else could votes be coming in significant numbers. Center County here, we still have some to come. This is where State College is getting out to be here and that we feel about the state of Democratic candidate for Joe Biden in 2020. Opportunity for Democrats in Iowa, but Penn State University right there. So there are some opportunities.
Still doing it.
Let me know when you're ready.
I'm here. Do you hear me?
Yep, I hear you.
Okay.
You ready?
Yep.
All right. We are back here on Ford News. I'm Brian London. He is Johnathan Ford. Follow him on X at FordJohnathan5. Follow me at Miami Radio Beast. Please go subscribe to the podcast wherever you get podcasts. Ford News Podcast, the YouTube channel that you may be watching on right now. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. We really appreciate it. We come to you every week on Monday, giving you the latest in news and politics. And obviously, Johnathan, we will have a lot to discuss in the weeks to come, without a doubt, as we, all right. It's still too early to call, right? Listen, I'm not feeling good. Maybe you've seen something that makes you feel better than I do, but regardless, it's still too early to call. But in my 25 years in sports radio, and especially as I work
Hawaii's now been called.
Yeah, well, okay.
Hawaii has just now been called.
Great, perfect. It's like, okay, great, Hawaii. It does nothing for me. But in my 25 years in sports radio, Johnathan, and especially as I made my way up into management in sports radio, as much as we rooted for our teams to win, you know what we found? Our ratings went up and interest went up when our teams lost. Because more people tend to tune in and want to commiserate when things don't go their way. So, as much as I was hoping for just a Harris landslide, personally, as far as the podcast goes, a close race. This is better for us. Not that I was rooting for it, but if I had to take the glass half full situation, close races, it helps out the interest. Meanwhile, I will turn Steve Kornacki down because he's in the background here talking about New Mexico. By the way, a nice landslide or a nice win for Kamala Harris in New Mexico. Right now, Nevada still too early to call. According to MSNBC, 70% of the vote is in. Trump at 50.9%. Of the vote, Harris a bit behind. So we're still too close to call in Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Arizona, Nevada. What have you seen, Johnathan? What are you looking at?
I still think in Pennsylvania, just running the numbers, it's not going to be the sizable win that Biden got in 20, but it's still, if the votes come in at near the 2020 election for Biden versus, of course, with Harris now, it looks like she could still come in with a 20 to 25,000 vote win right now. Just looking at it, because there's still, like I said, some substantial blue wave areas that the counts
Well,
still haven't come in.
here's the bottom line. She's down by 200,000 votes in Pennsylvania right now. There's still 8% to come in. So that's what we're looking at. And it's basically all, I think it's all mostly in the Philadelphia area.
It definitely is in the It definitely is in the Philadelphia area. So it's all in that surrounding Philadelphia area that substantially went for Biden. And she's been in that area tracking right at Biden, if not in some demographics, actually a little bit better. So we could still be looking at, and it's not going to be decided tonight. I can guarantee you that, because it's just going to be way too close for them to call tonight, if not even if tomorrow. But it looks like she could still come in at a 20 to 25,000 vote win if she comes in with a win. But that's where the win would be, is in the 20 to 25,000 vote range.
Another story,
So,
just real quick, another story that we really haven't touched, and there's a reason why, and it's the House races. We don't know about the House yet. The Senate, we know, has flipped to a Republican majority. The House, we are not going to know, because a lot of those House races are in California, which, one, their polls just closed a couple hours ago, but two, they don't count their ballots very fast in California. They kind of just do it at their own pace. It's not like here in Florida, literally, I think it's state mandated that we have to get everything done within like 30 minutes of the polls closing. Like everything, just everything has to be done. In some other state like Georgia, it's got to be an hour within the polls closing. In California, it's like, we'll get it done when we get it done. Just chill. So we're not going to know about the House. We maybe for days. So right now the GOP has a lead, but there's still a lot of Dem seats and contested seats out there to figure out about the House. But so while we won't know about the House, we do know about the Senate. We don't know about the presidency yet. We're looking at these battleground states just to see what is happening. And as I look at, I'll tell you this. There's not one battleground state, and this is not surprising, right? Because we always get the red vote in earlier, and then the blue vote comes in later, blah, blah, blah. As you said before, we woke up in the mornings, things change. But there's not one battleground state right now that's left on the board where Kamala Harris has a lead or is even, tied at the moment. It's all of them have Trump leading. Granted, there's still a lot of votes out there. So, but that's what it looks like at 1:10 a.m. Eastern, 12 a.m. Central, and 10:10 p.m. on the West Coast.
And I think this would all be different if we weren't looking at Donald Trump definitely outperforming with the Latino vote. Right now, that's pretty much where it all boils down to, is even in Michigan, especially the Latino vote is just definitely voting for somebody that just days ago or even months ago or years ago has been nothing but demeaning to that community, and then just days ago had a rally in New York that was nothing but racism and misogyny, and even just absolutely disgusting. But I keep looking at the numbers. So if you see me looking down, it's because I'm over here at the pen and paper and I'm just jotting down to where if I see if anything that could even be remotely called right now. And there's not one of those states, even though Trump does hold a small lead, or throughout those with a lot of blue areas left to count. There's still just too much out there to determine. Just like in Arizona, what completely baffles me is, of course, Rubin just beat Kerry Lake pretty easily, and they called that very, very quickly. And it seems like there's a lot of people that were voting against Republican governors, just like we've seen in North Carolina, where he lost substantially, but they didn't vote down ticket for Harris. So that looks like that's another thing that somewhat what could not have been anticipated with any type of polling or even doing predictions. You can't predict people's feelings as far as voting down the ticket. But again, there's nothing. There's nothing that basically suggests that this could be called tonight.
All right, so I'm putting a question up on the screen because I want to get to the bottom of this. You know, we talked about Trump picking up Hispanics. It logically just doesn't make sense the way his campaign has treated them, and I'd like to just get people's thoughts. So if you're watching out there, tweet at either one of us or post on X if you'd like to use that vernacular. Why did Trump pick up Hispanics? Tell us on X. You can either hit up Johnathan at 4Johnathan5 or me at Miami Radio Beast. We will be looking at our mentions and bringing those comments up and discussing it. We'd love to know. It's interesting because I asked this question earlier on my ex, Johnathan, and obviously I live in Florida. There's a lot of Hispanics down here in South Florida. It's especially in Miami-Dade, primarily Cuban. Up here in Broward, it's some Cuban. It's a lot of South American, and you know, the answers I got were really interesting, from economic reasons to media coverage, Hispanic media being controlled by certain entities, but also just that when it comes down to it, even though Hispanics are a minority, that especially Hispanic men could not bring themselves to vote for a woman, especially a woman of color. And that's some of the comments I got. So I'd love to know from anyone out there what your thoughts are as we continue throughout the night here on Ford News. It really is interesting, right? Because you just not take
Brian, I can't tell you, like, from just debating on TikTok, like I always do into the wee hours, and just even some of the people within the Hispanic community, they come up and would say, say that they're planning on voting for Donald Trump. Even some that said that they just now got their legal citizenship, and
right.
ones that admitted that they came over through the asylum process, just like so many do. Um, they're it's kind of crazy that some of their ideas or their mindset was, yeah, I might have come over here illegally, now I got my US citizen, but I don't want anybody else to come over. And it's almost like they don't want competition to continue to come across the border for some of the jobs that we have a robust amount of jobs, especially in the agricultural business, that would be open for everyone. But or even other jobs, construction jobs, or even if their daughters want to go to college and get a better education. But that seems like it was the like I would explain to them like what Donald Trump's deportation plan is. How the Republican Party is against allowing an asylum process to continue to flow like it is right now. And their response typically within the Hispanic community is, I don't care. I don't want anybody else anymore to come over. And it's almost just like, I always think back, it's just like women that vote against AB, like you will see. It's like they're voting against their own best interest or people within their demographics' best interest. And even though you don't like I tell people, even when I'm debating a MAGA, even if you don't support, like if you came over here that way, you should support other people to have the same means to the pursuit of happiness that you got. Or even while explaining to women that if they're pro-life, that's fine. You could be pro-life, but would you want somebody else to have power over your autonomy? Just like the pro-choice community is asking, is that nobody should have, especially men, power over their autonomy. Wouldn't you want to have your own? Like, who cares what other women are doing? It's it's about your autonomy. What you want to give other women that option as well. So that's what I've always found throughout all the debates. Speaking on TikTok till late night.
The other thing here is, you know what I forgot about is someone told me before, who from the Hispanic community, that that Donald Trump's ads in the final weeks of the election were really, really powerful in that community, especially as it relates to basically the relation, trying to basically say that the ads. I'm not sure. I think they were nationwide, but the ads that Kamala Harris is for prisoners being able to get sex changes, stuff like that. The transgender situation, the transgender issue that was played in the Donald Trump ads. A lot of that stuff that hit the Hispanic community hard. We can sit here and discuss why that is, but that those ads were effective in getting Hispanics to vote for Trump. Two factoids, Jonathan, that I'm reading on X is if you're looking for for points of reference, Carlton County, Minnesota, right? It has gone Democratic since 1928. Donald Trump won that tonight. And another one is Starr County, Texas. It's been Democratic in every presidential election since 1896. It has been flipped to Donald Trump. So there you go. Two counties that basically for the last 100 years plus have voted Democratic, flipped to Donald Trump tonight, Jonathan.
Yeah, and we'll probably, if we research the other way around, I'm sure we could find counties that were typically Republican that flipped the Democrat. But I'm just continuing looking here to see, and everyone, I've actually been texting some people and they're all saying it's just too close to call. I said, what about Wisconsin? And they said too close to call.
So here's what I see playing out right now on my television. Obviously, Trump and his minions are watching this at Mar-a-Lago. They're going to make their way over to the Palm Beach Convention Center. Where I'm actually looking at the Palm Beach Convention Center on TV. It's where I walked and got my diploma for my MBA. So I was just there a couple of years ago. But that is where Trump supporters are rallying tonight. And Trump is making his way over to the convention center now to give a speech to his supporters. And would not surprise me if he claimed that he won this election, Jonathan, like he did in 2020. Him and Elon and Dana White and all his minions are making their way over. Robert Kennedy, Tulsi Gabbard, they're all making their way over to the Palm Beach Convention Center right now. And it would not surprise me if he declares that he won and we see the YMCA.
Yep, and it looks like it looks like they're going to cover it, of course.
Yeah.
So of course they're going to cover the lies, because if Donald Trump gets on there and says anything about that he's won the election, he has not won the election. Harris has not won the election. It's too close to call as of right now. So we won't know. I don't think, like I thought we would know by this time today. But we're just not. It's probably not going to be. Some of the states are stating that the last of the votes won't appear till 3 or 5 o'clock in the morning. So it looks like
Wisconsin's probably going to be the last swing state to come out. It's going to come out between 3 and 5 in the morning. But it doesn't make a difference, because if Pennsylvania is called before that, then it really doesn't matter.
Yeah. So I just don't. I honestly do not see this being called before 3 or 4 or 5 a.m. If not even after that.
Well, you'll still be up. I won't. Although I might still be up. I'm drinking coffee.
I was wondering why you said that you're getting coffee at basically 12:21 here my time.
1:20 and 1 my
So
time. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Why
and I
am I getting
see
coffee?
still.
I'm getting coffee because I need to stay awake for the next 40 minutes. Although I think the depression that's setting in is going to keep me awake regardless. Yeah, there's all the crypto boys and their MAGA hats are going nuts over at the Palm Beach Convention Center. Ugh. Well, hopefully we're still a constitutional republic in 4 years.
Yeah, I just keep remembering back to 2020, and I was, of course, I wasn't in this atmosphere, but I was with my laptop and with my phone and everything, and looking at everything, and just watching people completely freak out. And then we woke up, and it was a completely different outcome. And I still think, just I keep looking at the votes that are left, and everything out there is all blue, like
Yeah,
in Wisconsin, Michigan, and
I agree with you, but the question is it enough?
well, yeah, that's going to be the question. Is it enough? And that's what we're not going to find out at 12:27 a.m. or 12:22 a.m. We're going to find out 3 a.m., 4 a.m., 5 a.m., maybe even later than that. But yeah, it's going to be definitely down to the wire as far as what's left, and that's Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania are definite must wins. So we'll just go back over this again. Let me pull up my
Well,
little thing here again.
I'm about to tell you something that's gonna let's see if I can find it.
Why won't it let me do undecided?
I don't know.
So again, guys, just for those that are viewing, if Donald Trump does happen to win Wisconsin, and then that means that Harris would have to win Pennsylvania, Arizona, and Nevada. If she wins Wisconsin, she could afford to lose Arizona and Nevada and still win. If she collects Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania to be over, and she wouldn't need Arizona or Nevada. But if she loses Arizona, then she would need, or I'm sorry, if she loses Wisconsin, she would need Arizona. If she loses Pennsylvania or loses Wisconsin and Pennsylvania, then it's over.
So, breaking news. Take this for what it's worth. Fox News has officially called Pennsylvania for Donald Trump.
So I'm not sure. Fox News is usually pretty credible as far as
Yeah, remember
calling.
they called Arizona for Biden in the last election, and Trump lost his mind. But they were right.
Yep.
So
So
you have to separate the actual small little tiny news gathering aspect of Fox News versus their opinion people and their ability to call states and elections is pretty good. They have called Pennsylvania for Donald Trump. I have not seen that on NBC or anywhere else yet, but Fox News makes that call.
Yep. And if that's correct, then the only thing that is left in hopes for Harris is a tie.
Yep. And but in a tie, Jonathan, she wouldn't win. I believe that if the House votes, it would be now, and the House is still Republican, and even if we don't know what happens yet. So there you go. And the other thing is, it goes by state in the House. It doesn't go by members, right? So it's just what, like, it would just, in other words, if I could use the English language, it doesn't matter like that California has 52 members of the House. California counts the same as any other state. It just goes by state if it comes down to the house voting. So there you go.
Yeah, I'm still trying to see anybody else. So New Hampshire was just called for Harris. Which I still don't see.
Oh, you're right, by the way. So the January 6th is the day that they would vote if no one has reached 270. If it's 269, that gets voted on January 6th. The House would vote, would vote for president. The Senate votes for vice president. So there you go. There's that news. I was finally able to find that information. Not that I'm rooting for that to happen. What a night.
I would say that if which I don't see anybody else projecting that Harris or that Trump has won Pennsylvania as of yet.
Yeah, but I don't know if you know what. Again, I don't normally trust Fox News. In this instance, I do. For them to call such a huge state, and they would be wrong, would be completely. I mean, it would be asinine. But who knows at this point?
Yep. So in that case, then if Pennsylvania goes, which is going to be like 90% of the predictors out there wrong again. So they're wrong on Georgia, myself included, Georgia, North Carolina, and Pennsylvania. So if Wisconsin goes, I mean, we could be looking at right now, we could be looking at a Trump 290 to 248 victory over Harris right now.
Yeah, right now I'll be honest with you. I don't know that there's a state out there a swing state that she's going to win. That's how I feel right now. Wisconsin doesn't look good. I don't know about Michigan. There's still a lot of vote to come in there. Pennsylvania, obviously, Fox has called it. Nevada, I feel 50-50 about. Arizona, I don't feel good about. I just don't. I don't know that there's any of these states that she's going to win. So that's we will have a lot to talk about. There's still 7% of the vote to come in Pennsylvania, according to MSNBC. And they're basically telling you, hey, Fox News has called it. We don't see it yet, but who knows at this point. And we, again, let's go back to this that we started off the broadcast with. Russia, during the entire day today, has been calling in these fake bomb threats to clear out Democratic-leaning voting precincts. And listen, if Kamala Harris ends up losing Pennsylvania by 25,000 or 30,000 or, whatever thousands of votes, you wonder, were those people in line to vote? And there was a bomb threat called in and they left. Someone's going to have to look at that because it seems kind of interesting that Russia is calling in bomb threats at all Democratic-leaning precincts in several states. And I'm going to wonder, when this is all said and done, what impact that had on the voting populace.
To be honest, right now, I don't see where Fox is getting their numbers that they could even call this. There's still way too much. There's still 7% out there, which is a heavy Democratic area. And with the leftover votes, even if she gets 50, between 59 and 60% of this, she would overcome it by 25,000 votes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know where they're getting their votes from either. I'm looking at the Pennsylvania election website, which unless Fox has an insider that is closer to Pennsylvania than Pennsylvania, I don't know where they're getting their votes. But that's neither here nor there. On the Pennsylvania website right now, it lists Trump up 50.9% to 48.15% in Pennsylvania. And in the total votes, it looks like he is up by about 180,000 votes, something like that, a little less. But again, there's still 7% of the votes to come in, mostly all blue. I don't know what the total numbers are as far as what's left on the ground in Pennsylvania. Like, what does that 7% represent in total votes in order to make up the ground that he's up by now? I'm not sure what that is, but that's neither here nor there. The bottom line is it's not looking good for Kamala Harris as we go past 1:32 Eastern here on Ford News.
Yeah, it looks like Fox News is going as far as to call the entire election too.
Oh, that I didn't see. I did see a couple other outlets call the election, but I didn't look at them as really credible. But let's look. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking on all of Fox's Twitter feeds. I don't see them calling the election yet.
Okay.
So I don't know where you're seeing that, but I'm sure they would tweet that out as soon as possible if that were the case.
It was an actual journalist, but the actual post has been deleted. So
Yeah.
It was actually a journalist. That looks like they probably meant to type Fox News calls Pennsylvania for Pennsylvania for Trump, and they put election instead of. So they probably really quickly deleted it.
Yeah, I'm looking to see. I don't see. You know, it's funny. Obviously, living in Florida, in South Florida, I have a lot of Hispanic friends, and a lot of them are on X right now celebrating. It's real interesting. It's something that I would love to study. I don't get it, but I want to understand it because something needs to be done about it. If you're the Democratic Party. By the way, on a side note, the Democratic Party in the state of Florida had a terrible night. Just a terrible night.
Oh, absolutely horrible.
Yeah, Rick Scott won over Debbie Mucarsel-Powell, and the two really important amendments, Amendment 3, which would have legalized marijuana, that failed. Well, wait, let me just explain this. In order for a referendum to pass in the state of Florida, it needs 60% of the vote. The Republicans in the state legislature changed that so that it basically you'd need like a supermajority for something to pass because Ron DeSantis is an ass. But so you need 60%. Mm-hmm. So the Amendment 3, which was to legalize marijuana, that did get over 50%. It did not get to 60%. I think it got 54 or 55. And the amendment that would basically legalize abortion again here in the state of Florida, as opposed to where we are now, where basically there's not even an exception for rape or incest. That did not pass either in Florida. It got 50% of the vote, which means a majority of the people in Florida would like to have abortion legal, but it did not reach the 60% that you need. So a terrible job on those things. And listen, Ron DeSantis owns a state. I don't know if you read about this, Johnathan, but basically he was threatening local TV stations for them not to run pro-abortion ads. And it actually was going to the courts as a First Amendment situation. And so there you go. Okay, we have an update from Pennsylvania. Philadelphia County, 83% of the vote is in. Harris is up, obviously huge, 78.5 to 20.4. The question is, with the 17% of the vote left in Philadelphia County, which pretty much represents all that's left in Pennsylvania, can she make up, what she needs to make up with what's left? I'm not sure that's the case.
Yeah, I'm trying to run, and it's still, I just don't know where Fox News even came close to even calling Pennsylvania. Was still 7% of that vote. That you are right is coming 75% in favor of Harris. So I'm just trying to figure out how many votes essentially are still left. So there was 800,000 votes. 800,000 votes that were in that area. So I just don't see where they could call that this early with so many votes. I mean, you're talking 7% of the state's total votes, with 75% of those votes coming in favor of Harris.
Yeah, I mean, Steve Kornacki right now is on MSNBC. He says, especially with provisional ballots, there's something like 100,000 provisional ballots still to come in. Those are mostly Democratic normally.
Yeah.
He's saying it's too early to call for Pennsylvania. So I don't,
Yeah.
again, I don't know where Fox News.
ballots.
I mean, listen, in the end, Fox may end up being right, but to me, it looks like they jumped the gun.
And 200,000 of regular votes is 309,000. I mean, it's still, I mean, we could still, and his current lead is what, 100 and some odd thousand votes right now?
His lead overall in Pennsylvania,
Yeah.
it's like 130 something, 130,000 maybe.
So take
I have to check.
300,000.
Let me see if the website's updated here. So here's the number. You can write this down and use your calculator. Ready? Donald Trump is at 3,359,552.
Okay.
Okay. Kamala Harris is at 3,168,157.
So Trump was at 3 million. What was at 59,000?
3,359,552. Kamala's at
Got it.
3,168,157.
I couldn't even read my own handwriting.
No, it's okay. I mean, although you're used to being up this late, so for you, it's just another day.
Yeah. So that's 191,000 votes.
Yeah, 191,395 votes. So, again, it's tight, man. I just don't know that there's enough on the ground still to make it up. By the way, the Senate seat in Pennsylvania looks like it's close to flipping too. So there's that. But we'll keep our eyes on it. Basically, to me, without you're doing the math, but to me, it looks like she would basically have to take every vote that's left in Pennsylvania to have a chance. Like every single one, like not lose one vote. I don't know if that's possible.
Whatever votes are left over, she can only afford to lose like 36,000 votes. And that's if there's 300,000 votes, she could literally only lose 36,000 votes. Now it's still too early to tell because I mean, if 75%, that's with 75% coming in, but we don't know. Just like what Steve is saying, is that we don't know where that is. It going to be 75? Is it going to be 80? Like, where is that going to be? So I still think like Fox may be right in the end, but I think they are too early to completely call it right now.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, in a Senate update, it's not looking good for Tammy Baldwin in Wisconsin. So that would be another one. So they may lose 2 more Senate seats. But there's still a ton of votes left to come in. We don't know yet, but it's looking rocky. So there you go. As we keep track of the Senate, the House, with the House, we may not know for days about the House. So there's that. I'm seeing so many people on my X feed, Johnathan, who are retweeting their vote prediction, like their map, like you have, and just saying, I don't know where I went wrong. And just the other day we did a show. You had Kamala at 312, and like a lot of people, then you weren't different than so many other people that had her winning in a landslide. But there's a lot of stuff that we failed to take into account, and a pickup of Hispanic votes was one of the things that I did not see coming, if you're going to be honest.
No, yeah. Well, historically, it's around 58%. The 68% or 58%, 61%. That's where the Democrats poll, and to lose a substantial amount of those this election cycle is just nothing that anybody could poll or predict. But it definitely does look like that this is not, unless something drastic changes in Pennsylvania, this is not going to be a good night for the Harris campaign.
Wow, that's the first time you said that tonight, Jonathan. What changed?
It's just the narrowing edge of votes in Philly, where it just continues, that percentage of votes out there continues to get more narrow. And she underperformed in some counties, and she underperformed definitely with the Latino votes. And I think it's just too much possibly for her to overcome in the next couple hours when the rest of the 7% of those Philly votes come in.
Yeah.
And like I said before, as soon as that happens, the only hope that she has at that particular point is basically a tie if she wins all of them. So she'd have to remain everything out just to get a basic tie.
Yeah, not looking good, my friend. Not looking good, my friend. We will definitely have a lot of post-mortem on our next Ford News podcast show, which will come out on Monday, a week from yesterday. Always out at about 9 a.m. Eastern. If you are watching us right now on YouTube or X, please make sure you subscribe to the podcast, Ford News Podcast, wherever you get your podcast, or go subscribe to the YouTube channel, as well as we'll get back to posting some videos on there. You can also follow me at Miami Radio Beast on X, and follow me on TikTok at Miami Radio Beast, and follow Johnathan at Ford Johnathan 5. So that's where we are right now. I'm watching Steve Kornacki with his tie and his lovely gray slacks and his white shirt. I'm waiting for him to say anything positive that makes me feel any better about anything at this point.
Yeah, and even the rhetoric when we went to bed in 2020 was pretty negative as far as as far as where we're at. But of course, we were nowhere near where we are now as far as numbers coming in and some of the media willing to project a winner out of those states. So, I mean, that is way ahead of what 2020 is. And it doesn't appear, unless something drastically changes in the 7% that's still out there in Philadelphia, it's either going to be a very narrow win for Trump or a very narrow win for Harris. And I think that's why Steve is a little reluctant to actually call it at this point.
Well, he does. Listen, the way they're like every other network, like Steve's out in front here working the map, that they have a decision desk as well behind the scenes that would make the calls on things.
Yeah. So I don't. So, and just a few minutes ago, I guess Nevada did the amendment to protect access to abortion did pass. But back to the election, we're just got to wait and see where that 7% comes and see if that wins. So we'll find out. So it looks like Trump is currently at 247. Well, that doesn't sound right. It should be a little bit higher than that. So let's see. I've been kind of trying to keep track of it myself. It looks like he should be around 260. looks like he should be around 260. If
Well,
Pennsylvania, he'd be around 269.
there's still some states that are still not called yet. Like I don't think New Hampshire's officially been called. I don't think New Jersey's officially been called.
New Jersey
so-
and I think New Hampshire has been called. It's been called for Harris.
Okay.
I've seen that out. So let's see. Yeah, I'm pretty sure New Hampshire was just called a little while ago.
So, I don't know if you follow Angry Staffer on X, but he wrote, "Hey Republicans, please pay attention to how we don't storm the Capitol because our candidate lost."
Yeah, so it looks like Fox News did call New Hampshire a little while ago.
For
Harris.
Oh, really? Okay. Fox News seems to be ahead of everyone. Because they're ahead of every other network on some of these calls. I don't know where they're getting their information from or how they're getting it earlier than everyone, but they're calling everything ahead of everything. Oh, well, Fox News does project that Vice President Harris will win Minnesota. Hey, let me ask you a question, Johnathan, which I don't know how much we should get into it, but Kamala Harris not picking the governor of Pennsylvania, Shapiro, to run as her running mate, I wonder if that was a miscalculation.
Well, I said that my first pick was out of Kentucky.
Andy Bashir,
Andy Bashir was my first pick, and my second pick was Ben Shapiro.
Josh Shapiro,
just because
Ben Shapiro.
Or Josh Shapiro. Yeah, Josh Shapiro. Dear. Sorry, Josh. But that was my first two picks. And the only reason why it's because I thought that obviously Josh Shapiro could help out in Pennsylvania and Bashir could help out. And obviously Pennsylvania and states like Wisconsin and Ohio. And that's why I felt like they should have picked it. But on the other hand, that you really can't say that so much because of the net positive approval rating that Tim Walz had. I mean, you really can't just pinpoint it on him. I think a lot of it was just there was one side that was running on the economy and immigration, and the other side was running on AB rights, reproductive rights, and protecting the democracy. And at the end of the day, it seems like the majority of people felt like it could possibly be that the economy and immigration means more to them than protecting women's reproductive rights or what we believe. And Brian, you share the same thing, that Donald Trump is a threat to our democracy, and that this election was more about protecting our democracy from somebody like Donald Trump, who favors and is loved and loves dictators throughout the world, and has this rhetoric of on day one suspending the Constitution on immigration, or giving cops 1 day to really rough people up. So that's just the two different sides. And I think at the end of the day, maybe people just didn't get it right. They didn't get the right information. They believed whatever was posted on Facebook, all the lies and the propaganda. For God's sakes, for a month we had running around about an allegation with Walz, and something that happened way back into some scout thing, and it come to find out that it was a fraudster from New York that went after a X account of the insurrectionist black man, and he ended up being a white person from New York. I mean, that's the type of stuff that people here believe, and that's why we're in part of the predicament we're in right now.
Yeah, I'm thinking about what lies ahead, Johnathan. As we'll wrap this up in a few minutes, is a Trump presidency with a Republican Senate and with possibly at this point a Republican House. We don't know, but let's just say so. So a complete mandate, and some of the things that come to mind is one, what is that going to look like? Well, there will be no guardrails for Donald Trump, right? Two, it's going to basically have him and his followers, which are greater than I thought, continue with their belief that they really won in 2020, right? That was rigged. They're going to go with that. And it's going to put our standing in the world and in a really bad place. And domestically, women, minorities, all types of people, are going to take it on the wrist, if not in worse places. That's what's going to happen. A lot of times they say you get what you pay for, but you get the politicians, you get the government that you deserve, and this is where we are as the United States of America. It's kind of hard for me to fathom, but hey, I can't. The results are what they are. There's someone will write. A lot of people will write books about this, and I'm going to have to read all of them to understand how we got to this point.
So it appears that Fox and Brian, I'm going through a bunch, so maybe you can help me confirm this, that they have called Wisconsin for Donald Trump.
Let me double check on that.
And they are saying that he will reach 277 as far as electoral college.
Yeah, I believe Fox has said that he will win. Yeah, there's the graphic that he will win. According to Fox News, Donald Trump will win the presidency with at least 277 electoral votes, including Wisconsin and Pennsylvania. And Donald Trump is about to speak to supporters, where I'm sure he will declare victory. And, there goes the end of democracy as we knew it.
Yeah. So, but it looks like nobody else is confirming this.
Yeah. I mean, I don't see anyone else confirming any of this. So who knows? But, at this point, like, I don't, again, as I've been saying for hours, I don't see any other data points that point towards a way that Kamala can turn this around. There's nothing else out there between Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Nevada, Arizona that gives me a glimmer of hope, even if, regardless.
Yeah. So if that's the case, there is absolutely no path. So like zero path for Harris. So if this is confirmed by multiple outlets, that means that the election, when we wake up tomorrow, will mostly be 100% called for Donald Trump.
Well, at least we'll have plenty of fodder to talk about on the podcast moving forward.
So, and a lot of the question now is what people are starting to ask: what would the election results have been if President Biden would have continued to run? And I will tell people it would have been a far lot worse.
Worse as far as he would have lost by worse?
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you look at some of the states, he was down significantly in a bunch of these leading up to this. So, I mean, she had several days to get there, and it looks like she could possibly fall short.
Yeah, we're gonna play the woulda, coulda, shoulda, and One of the things that I'm going to ask is, what if it was Kamala's race all along? If she had more time, would that have made a difference? I don't know. At this point, with the demographics of what Trump picked up, I don't know if it would have made a difference. Because if someone's not ready to vote for a minority woman for president, they're not ready to vote for a minority woman for president.
Yep. And that's, just way too much disinformation out there. People are believing things that they shouldn't be believing, and not doing research on things. Just like the minute things of, like, where they believe that uh, like, there's no pipeline still existence or operating between Canada and down to the Gulf of Mexico, when the pipeline XL is the only one, which was a shortcut of the Keystone pipeline. Like, stupid things like that. They just haven't done the research. And that's where I think what the Democrats have to do is just, they got real tough towards the 2 weeks or 3 weeks before the election, as far as vocally, but I think they have to do it more often. I think they need to take advice from representatives like Representative Jasmine Crockett, who just actually won, and she'll actually return back to the House, the representative out of Texas, and just telling people exactly how it is. And I think that's where sometimes the Democrats go wrong, is they kind of softball leading up, which leads to poor messaging. Because, quite frankly, some adults, they just need to hear the truth, and they need it blunt, and stop sugarcoating and trying to be politically correct. Because the Republicans stopped doing that 9 years ago, stopped being politically correct, and stopped playing by the same rules that were typically standard for for politicians or for any political party. And that stopped 9 years ago. And I think the Democrats, if they get 100% control of the House, like what they're predicting, I think it's a softball, or it's hardball time, and it's go in there just like what Mitch McConnell said with versus President Obama, that my job is basically to stonewall you at any given chance I can. And that's what their job is going to be. Whatever majority the Democrats pick up, they're going to have to stonewall him on every single opportunity he gets. And when people say, you got to put party before politics, it's time to just say, no, we already tried that for 9 years. Now it's time to just put a halt to anything that he attempts to do, or just like the House has done for the past 4 years, is lie to the American people, and then get on national TV and convince people that they weren't lying.
Yeah. It's going to have to be a lot of gaslighting. All right, Jonathan. It's always fun, my friend, even on nights like this when it's not so fun. It's always a pleasure to work with you. And even though your hair is just okay tonight, at least you have hair. I don't. I do want to tell the more than 4,000 people that have been watching us tonight, which is just an unbelievable number. Where are you every week, people? Come on, download the Ford News podcast, wherever you get podcasts. Sponsor the show. Come on. To everyone that has stayed with us for the last 2 hours, thank you so much. It means so much to us. I know a lot of you possibly.
Brian, my son actually just texted me. My son just texted me and said that he's actually watching the podcast right now. So he lives up there in Wisconsin. I'll text you here in a minute. You better have voted. I'll text you here in a minute. If you didn't, we'll talk. Okay. But yeah, so he's obviously up there in Wisconsin. So
could you make sure your son is also subscribed to the podcast too? Make sure that's happening. But listen, Jonathan, we had more than 4,000 people watch us tonight. That's quite a feat. That's great. And listen, we should do this again, right? Have another live broadcast again, maybe once every couple of months or more. We'll do that, and we'll figure out a way to turn the comments on so people can interact with us, and we'll turn it into a whole thing. So listen, not a good night if you were rooting for Kamala Harris, but as far as you and I go and the future of the Ford News podcast, we're going to steam along and make sure that the people know the truth, know the facts, and understand what's going on in this country. So thank you, my friend, for joining me for this one.
Absolutely. Thank you. And again, absolutely awesome. Over 4,000 people viewing it. Again, like he said, you can pick up the Ford News podcast on Spotify, Amazon, Apple, Spreaker. And it's not Speaker, it's Spreaker by iHeartRadio. So a lot of people keep asking me, like, I keep looking up Speaker and it only brings up iHeartRadio. It is Spreaker by iHeartRadio. Go in there, subscribe. We do record every Sunday. It drops every Monday morning, or might be a little bit later. Sometimes I forget to send links and stuff, so Brian has to postpone a little bit. But it will drop at some point Monday morning. And I'm actually open to actually doing more of these lives. Maybe we'll get to a point to where it's a weekly thing.
Sure.
Very well could be every single Sunday, to where
Hey,
we'll just
if we had the sponsors come in, we'll just do it daily, because this will be our jobs.
Absolutely. So sponsorship. So like I've said before in other podcasts, I don't do monetization on X, but we will do sponsorships to where you can
See these
basically be
walls
mentioned.
behind us? We'll put your
The
logo
walls
right here.
behind us.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that sponsorship too would also go on my X account, where up at the top, it basically, or the Ford News X account, that basically just says up at the top, Ford News Podcast. We would just change and put your logo up there with millions of views per week. But even though it was not the type of night that we would hope for, the one good thing, Brian, is that news will always continue. And even though I wanted Harris to win, the news is almost golden. And that's probably why CNN and all of them kind of root for Donald Trump. It's because he is, with his court cases and all the just crazy, outlandish shit he does, is great for the media.
Isn't
And
he?
we'll
By
continue
the
to
way,
report on this weekly.
Isn't he about to be sentenced soon? I don't know. We'll have to get back.
November,
We'll get back to court
November
cases.
November 26th, I believe, is actually his sentencing date, which is still on. And they said that sentencing date would actually happen regardless if he got elected or not. He's still got the case out of DC that a superseding indictment came out for trying to overturn the 2020 election. We've got the Florida case that is actually appealing the appointment of Special Counsel Jack Smith.
No, listen,
They're everywhere.
Any of the cases that aren't finished yet aren't going to happen, because as soon as January 20th happens, the first act of Donald Trump will be to get rid of the special counsel, get rid of all the cases. So you don't have to worry about.
Well, there is the sentence is a state case, so they wouldn't have any basically authority over that.
You're right.
The Georgia case, they wouldn't really be able to touch. Which reminds me,
Fani Willis won re-election.
Fani Willis actually won her re-election, so she won her re-election, so she'll continue at her job, and that one will continue to go on. Any other state crimes for trying to overturn the 2020 election with fake electors will continue, like the ones in Arizona. Even though Donald Trump wasn't indicted, he was named as a unindicted co-conspirator.
Yep.
Or co-conspirator. Thank you for correcting me. I appreciate that.
No
but yeah, so that's just where we are. And then we just elected that guy. And I don't mean to laugh, but this is just so off the wall that we just elected a guy with all of this. And as president of the United States.
NBC officially calls Pennsylvania for Donald Trump. He's at 266 according to them. She's at 194. Folks, that'll about do it for election 2024. We will get back to court cases and God knows what when we come at you next Monday. We will see you then. Until then, try to get some sleep, people. Johnathan will be up, but you try to get some sleep. We'll see you when we see you. Peace.